and welcome to the I Am Her Empowerment and Impact Summit for Career Women. Today, I have a special treat for you. I have Miss Amanda Eloesh Johnson. How are you today, ma'am?
So good. Thanks, Kourtney. Good to be here with you.
You look so relaxed.
I am relaxed. It's a beautiful day.
Good. It's just starting to rain here.
Yeah.
Well, allow me to introduce you to the ladies. She is San Francisco's leading spiritual success mentor. She's the author of Unlock Your Success Code and the Go Ask Alice Oracle and Tea Party Game. She's an international speaker and teacher who shared her wisdom with thousands in more than 20 countries. She's dedicated herself to research and study of the subconscious and its untapped and infinite potential, plus founded the Living Wisdom School. Amanda's an expert in helping professionals who feel like they're stuck under a glass ceiling and their gifts are going to waste to reach more people, make more money, and finally make the difference they came here to make. Welcome, Miss Amanda.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege and an honor.
Can you briefly tell us, in terms of the subconscious, like in layman's terms, regular people speak, what's the deal with the subconscious? What is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the subconscious is thought processes that are running like you're breathing, so that when you go to sleep, you keep breathing, and it's running your whole system, your digestion, but also some things that go into the subconscious are survival-based patterns. And those are often, we may not have even, if we're looking back as grown-ups, we may not necessarily think of them as actual trauma. Like maybe mom yelled at you because she had a headache, but it has like an impact on the young mind. And it's basically stories that we're putting together as young children about what the world is like, right? And sometimes the stories that we put together are not very accurate because we're little kids and we don't really have the big picture perspective. So mom yelling at me, if I was a grown up, I'd be like, oh, she's just tired, or she just needs it quiet, or she has a headache, no big deal, I'll just be quiet. But a little kid might interpret it as, oh, I was playing, so playing isn't safe. I was expressing myself isn't safe. So they're little patterns and programs and like laws or rules about how the world is and how we have to be in the world to be safe and to survive.
Right.
And they just go on automatic, and we're not consciously having to think them. They're like our breathing. They just keep operating our system to make sure that we're staying alive and safe.
Right. It's interesting that you said when your mom says this to you, you feel this certain way, so you think that action is not good or shouldn't do it. I've seen where people who are adults, because they haven't changed their definition of certain things, they still problem solve like the 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So the benefit of understanding your subconscious and working with it now is so that you don't solve problems being 30 like you did when you were 5.
Exactly.
Awesome. I think some people have a misunderstanding about working with the subconscious. They think, oh, it's just for people who are way out there, or it's just some crazy new fad or something. What's the deal with working with your subconscious? Why do you think it's this big push or promo about it now?
Oh, well, I actually didn't realize that it was a trendy topic right now. It's kind of good to know. It's everybody has a subconscious. And we all were raised by some kind of caretaker that had a specific idea about how the world works. And most of the time, it's very limited. It's limited based on what they experienced growing up. And if we don't have the opportunity to examine it, we just kind of accept these laws and limiting beliefs and limitations about how the world is. Like, it's not safe to express myself, or it's not okay for me to let down my guard and relax and play because somebody's going to get mad at me. It's not going to be safe. So it really, I can't imagine anybody it wouldn't apply to, or somebody that wouldn't get benefit from at least exploring.
When I was mentioning the adult acting like a 5-year-old, problem solving like a 5-year-old,
We all know a few of those,
it's
I'm sure.
interesting how our subconscious is running most of what we do consciously in our own little world. So to reaffirm that belief of I can't express myself, and then you get in trouble in a relationship when you tell the truth about how you feel, or you tell how
Yes.
you feel at work, so then you get in trouble, and then you keep doing
Yes.
that inward closing, and you just feel like I really can't express myself.
Yeah.
So how do you help women deal with things that just I have this pattern? How would they recognize that they have a pattern, or is there help for that?
Yeah. Yeah, there are 3 really powerful signs to recognize if you've got a subconscious pattern that's not serving you. Because like I said, we have a bunch of patterns, but it's whether it's serving us or not that matters. And so here are the three keys. One is, are you just feeling stuck? Like, have you done everything you can in your business? Say you're an entrepreneur and you've done a bunch of, you've educated yourself, you've gotten some coaching, you're enthusiastic and you're disciplined and you're putting yourself out there, but for some reason, 5 years later, you're still just scraping by. It's like you're still feels like you're kind of, more. You may be doing things differently, but financially or as far as where you want to be, you're kind of the same place. So stuck, no matter what, even though you're doing all the right things. The second one is I'm in a repeating cycle, like, and I'll use a relationship as an example. I learned so much in my last relationship, and I swore I was never going to attract that same guy, the user loser guy. I'm never going to do that again. And then all of a sudden you find, oh my gosh, I did it again. How's that possible? So it's like, oh, I'm stuck in this loop. And no matter what I do, I'm not able to break out of it. And then the third thing is sometimes we have strong beliefs, right? Like, one might be, I'm a powerful manifester, people that believe in the law of attraction. And, I'm going to think positively. I know that I have the power to manifest big things. I've got these big visions, but the reality is actually way back here. There's a big contradiction between what and what your experience is and what your beliefs are and what's actually happening in your life. They don't line up. They don't match up. Those are the 3 signs that there's a subconscious pattern that's got more control than your conscious self.
Nice. What are the fears that people have with working with their subconscious? Is it just they just don't know what it is, so they're like, oh, I don't want to do it, or is there something else?
I would guess that, just based on the experience that I have with my clients, one of the biggest ones is that there's a bunch of shadow in there. Like, we have a bunch of shame and not good enough and not worthy. All of our core wounding from our childhood is in there. So it's a very tender place to be. And so I know that consciously and subconsciously, we have a great fear of, if I go in there, it's going to be awful. And all this shadow is just going to take over and overwhelm me. I'm going to have all these intense feelings. It's going to be too much. It might, if there happens to be trauma in there, that's like real severe trauma and not just the regular dysfunctional family trauma that most people have, it's like, wow, I don't want to stir that stuff up. It's too much. So it can be very, very frightening prospect to think about going in there and poking at that stuff.
So if someone had whatever going on, and like you said, it's a shadow that's like, oh, I'm gonna come to light, but they keep suppressing it down. They're like, oh, but I got to this career level, oh, but I'm able to do this in my career, oh, I'm able to make this much money, I don't really need to deal with that. Do you think that that stuff is just gonna start to seep out, and then they're gonna have to deal with it at some point? I'm sure everybody's different, but
Well, I mean, our core wounds show up all the time. And, if you're really happy with everything in your life, your relationships are amazing and your success is great, and you don't find that those three signs, repeating patterns, feeling stuck, living a life that's much less than what you're capable of. If none of that's happening, you're probably just fine. But I don't know very many people who don't have at least one of those things happening.
so it's a matter of starting to be aware of what's going on versus just being on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah. Being aware, paying attention. Are those three things happening in your life? And I think one of the biggest ones that catches a lot of people, especially if you're really, really smart, is, well, I already know all this stuff. I've talked to clients who are like, they've even studied about the subconscious. Like, I already know all this stuff. I already know my subconscious rules, but do you know how to shift it? Because we can know a lot. You can be super, super smart. We know those people, right? There are a lot of brainiacs out there. They have a lot of information in their head.
Right.
If you don't know, if your subconscious isn't letting you actually bring it into your whole being and live it, embody it, manifest the world that you know about in your head, then it's just a fantasy. It's just a hypothesis or a theory. And living in your head just isn't as fun as living in your whole body and, having the full embodied life.
Wow, that's a really good point. Is learning to deal with your subconsciousness like going to a regular psychologist? What's the difference between I just go to a therapist and talk versus, working on my subconscious? What is the difference?
Huge difference. So I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and psychotherapy and traditional therapeutic methods of healing are really not very effective. They're really only slightly more effective than placebos.
Oh, wow.
And this work, I did 1,600 hours of supervised clinical work in hospital, in outpatient, with one-on-one with clients, 1,600 hours. And the supervisors who have counseling, psychology, master's degrees, they're therapists, licensed clinical therapists, were really reflecting to me like, wow, this is amazing. What you're doing is really powerful and it's fast. So another piece about traditional psychotherapy, I've had people who've worked with therapists for sometimes decades on a particular problem, and sometimes within one session they've accessed that subconscious piece and already seen it starting to shift. And like, I spent decades and thousands of dollars working on this, and in one session we got in there and made some significant changes. And so it's very, very different. Yeah, because therapy, they have new tools of like EFT, like working with the nervous system and stuff like that, which are really great, and I sometimes incorporate that to add it in to my work. But traditional therapy and just talking about stuff, guess where it focuses on? The consciousness, which is 10%. It doesn't get down into the subconscious. So it's work. It's like pushing, using all of your resources to only have an impact on 10% of your life. It's not very effective.
Wow. Thanks for that contrast. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So when is our subconscious active, and what does it help us to do or not do?
Well, it's always active. Like I said, it helps make sure that we're digesting. It helps make sure that our heart's beating and blood's pumping, and It's doing all those automatic things in our system. But again, it's also running other survival programs that are psychological, that are based on how do I need to behave in the world to survive. And so the subconscious isn't really interested in thriving. It's not really interested in whether you're enjoying your life. It's not really interested in whether you are succeeding, and have friends and healthy. It's just focusing on these like 5-year-old, 2-year-old, ideas about what we're supposed to do to stay alive. And it's most of the time, at the very least, it's very limited. And a lot of times it's totally inaccurate. So it's always kind of looking in the environment and processing, is there something that's threatening that I need to go into this survival mode? And if there's anything in the environment, in a relationship, whether it's at work or personal, or anything in the environment that seems at all familiar to some old pattern, then it's going to go into hyperdrive and show up to make sure that you do the same thing over and over, because whatever it was you happened to be doing that got you through as a little kid is going to like, oh, that's what we need to do again. So a lot of times we act very infantile. And we can see like we feel disempowered because part of us is kind of stuck at that young age, and we're dropping into that pattern that we put together at that very young age.
I heard a story where they told us that this lady was at home. She had a dog and she had her baby in a feeder chair. Can't believe I don't even remember what the name of that is, but had him in the chair eating, and the doorbell rang. When the doorbell rang, the dog took off and it hit the chair that the baby was sitting in. So the baby fell. Now, the baby, because of that incident, has tied that dogs are bad. So as an adult, they don't like dogs. They don't remember the incident. They don't know why, but dogs are bad, and they're scared of dogs as an adult.
Yeah.
So this would be a pattern that you were speaking about, and how we react to things like a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old.
Exactly.
You don't understand why. So when you have something come up, it's a good thing to look into that, because there's something there.
Yes.
Is it like our subconscious can grow up, or what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can grow up, but what needs to happen is it has to come online with the conscious self. So that's why it's important to bridge the consciousness with the subconsciousness. Once that bridge is made, it kind of aligns very quickly. And that's why when I work with people, they're so amazed at how quickly things can change. It's not a woo-woo, smoke and mirrors, I'm waving my magic wand thing. It's that this part is kind of stuck at that young age and stuck in a pattern. It's not serving itself, it's trying to, its desire is, I want to keep you alive. It doesn't even know there's something beyond survival, and it doesn't have any idea there's anything outside of that pattern that's available. But as soon as you can start to bridge and bring the conscious self and start connecting it and accessing the subconscious with the conscious self. So hypnotherapy is powerful, but that's somebody else putting you into a liminal unconscious state and doing the work for you. But if you can stay conscious and access that subconscious on your own, it is quantum fast, and you're the one in the driver's seat. You're the one making those shifts. And so, yes, it can be phobias. I've definitely helped people with phobias. It can be just any kind of limiting belief. And sometimes we don't even realize we have a limiting belief, because we just think that's just how the world is. But if you see somebody else living a different reality that seems better, you might be like, maybe there is something I'm limiting myself in. I don't need to be limiting myself.
When you were saying that, it's like I could see people saying, oh, this always happens to me, or I can only get so far, or everybody
Yeah.
else always whatever. They always have the look. I always have
Yep.
bad luck. I can only make so much money. I can only
Hmm.
get promoted so much, before they say, okay, that's enough. You can't get any higher no matter what company you go
Yeah.
to. Wouldn't you say those are limiting beliefs?
Those are limiting beliefs. They're all victim stories. They're all like, something's happening to me. It sucks. I don't like it. And I don't have any control over it.
Mhm.
And the reality is you actually do, but nobody's teaching this except for me. But I mean, it's not like they're teaching it in school. It's not like your parents knew how to do this. And, we didn't get taught. And so in a way, we are hopeless and we don't have the ability to change those things unless we learn how to tune into the subconscious and shift it.
Very good. What would make someone different, better, more powerful in learning to access and use their subconscious consciously?
Well, I can give a personal story about myself. I have an old self-worth story that's like, I'm not good enough, you know, any kind of my mom criticizing me, right? Got put into my head. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve. And so I became really perfectionistic. I couldn't ever make a mistake. And I also, guess what happened in my business? I wasn't thriving. I wasn't doing very well because I didn't deserve it. I had a story that I didn't deserve it. And anytime some awesome thing would happen, somebody would see my brilliance, my talents, my gifts, something would always come follow on the heels to knock me back down because my subconscious pattern was running that I didn't actually deserve that. I didn't really deserve that. So something needs to come in and level me out. And now that I've learned how to work with that pattern, when it arises, I actually get excited about it now. Where in the past, most people, like, you can feel the core wounding arise and you can feel like, uh-oh, everything's about to go down fast. Now I get really excited. I take a little bit of time to do the deep inner work for myself. And what happens on the other side is I get an upgrade. Things just get better. And I'll give a quick little story. I had that self-worth pattern emerging. And when that emerges for me, the way, just based on the dialogue that I've had with myself, I know that the way to heal it for myself is to do a lot of self-care and to allow myself to not do anything, because I feel like I have to prove myself. I have to triple and quadruple my effort to prove how worthy I am. And it's like, actually, when this pops up, you need to do nothing. And so I was at Esalen, which is a retreat center in Northern California, and my partner was teaching a workshop, and I was going to do sound healing for the workshop, and I just gave myself permission to not even participate in the workshop and to just soak in the mineral baths and to just nourish myself, to rest and not try to be productive. And I did a lot of that inner work, and I did the sound healing ceremony, and come to find out, a very famous, world famous musician was there and heard my sound healing and loved it, and has followed up saying, I really want to do some work with you, because I don't, he's not working on the subconscious stuff, but there are other healing pieces that I do, and he was really interested in it. And so it was like, wow, me, because I don't think if I'd have gone in there, because, oh gosh, Esalen, it's such a good treat. I got to earn it. I got to bust my butt. I got to, if I'd have gone in there tired and worn out and low energy, I don't think you would have been that impressed.
That's a very
So yeah, so and really on a, like, constantly, every single time this self-worth story pops up, it's scary to honor that agreement, but every time I do it, and every single time something really amazing like that shows up to show me you did it. that was right. See, it works. So I've never had any evidence to the contrary. You know, I've only had support. And so it isn't like I bridge science and spirituality. Everything I do, there's science behind it. And then I also have my own personal, like, it's never shown me anything different. Because I'm a skeptic. I'm very spiritual, but I'm also kind of skeptical, and I look at things with a critical eye. And so it's got to have results. The results have to be there for me to buy into it.
Awesome. Do you have a way to learn how to deal with the subconscious, or is it something that takes a long time for people to get into? Is it difficult?
Well, I mean, I have a system that I've created that I think makes it very, very easy. You know, most of the people I work with, it's just a few months together, you know, and I teach them a system that I created called subconscious accessory patterning. And there are always new ways, like I'm always learning new ways to apply it. So you could be a lifetime student of it, but it doesn't actually take that long to learn how the system works. It's very simple. In the beginning, it can take a little support because it is the subconscious, and sometimes it's tricky to find it in the beginning. But once you learn your own unique way, like I was just sharing with somebody today, all of our subconscious patterns have a little tell, like a little giveaway that makes them seeable to the right people. I'm really good at spotting it. Like that's my superpower. Oh, there it is. We caught it. And so it can be very hard to see it yourself, but once somebody who knows it can point it out, then you can start recognizing it for yourself. Like, oh, I see that. Yep. And then you start doing the system yourself and having the shifts. And, you know, some people learn it super fast, and some people takes them a little longer. But what I've noticed is the moment people start doing this system, they start seeing positive shifts immediately.
Amazing. Well, this has been very informative. Do you have a gift that you would like to give to the ladies for the summit?
I do. And the gift that I have is, it's my spiritual success mentoring package and a kit, and it includes a quick ebook. It's about 50 pages. I wrote about the system. It's called Unlock Your Success Code. It's about subconscious accessory patterning. It has all the steps in there. It shares a little bit about my personal story and how I got to that work. And then it also includes a recorded journey. So you don't have to memorize all those steps. You can kind of sit back and relax and enjoy me guiding you through it.
Okay. So they can get a hold of you on your website, or you want them to email you, which is best for you?
You can contact me at Eloesh. That's my middle name. I think it's showing up right here, eloesh.com. And if you want I think that you have the link that you're going to include to that. But if for some reason they don't get that link, my email contact is Amanda Eloesh. So it's my first and middle name, all one word, @gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. This has been amazing. I greatly appreciate you for sharing with us.
Thank you, Kourtney.
Well, that is it for now with Miss Amanda. I am Kourtney Coleman, your host. And until next time, stay true to the real you, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.